events have arisen which suggest caution. About 5 years ago, we had an infestation of what was called at the time a red tide. It isn't red and it isn't a tide. And right now, thousands of fish of all species and dimensions are washing up on our beach in front of the cottage. And apparently we are in the first stages of a second visitation of a similar nature. I doubt if the biblical fable of the frogs and I believe the fleas in Egypt could have been half as troublesome as this infliction which is now in prospect here.
The Florida Gulf is a beautifully captivating and magical environment. It is a provider of abundant gifts and discoveries to all who reside and explore here. The Gulf serves as a unique and critical habitat for all kinds of creatures that rely on its continued health and sustainability. It is where land and sea meet to create a true harmony of nature. The Florida Gulf is among the most biologically productive and diverse environments, and yet among the most threatened. The Gulf is the flyway for 75% of water birds traveling the United States, engaging and delighting even the most reluctant of birdwatchers and conservationists. It's a region woven with a rich tapestry of lush flowers and foliage, surprising and varied inhabitants, stunning azure waters, and painterly sunsets, making it a treasure trove of natural wonders. With its thick carpets of seagrasses, enveloping mangroves, turtle-filled reefs, and magnificent manatees, the Gulf hosts an ecosystem most deserving of our protection and preservation. When a naturally occurring phenomenon known as the Florida red tide strikes, there is discord in the sea, an interruption in the symphony of life. Documented along the Gulf Coast since the 1840s, and even earlier by the Spanish explorers, the red tide has perplexed residents and visitors for hundreds of years. Although not isolated by scientists until the massive red tide of 1946, this tiny yet powerful menace wreaked havoc in southwest Florida when an estimated 500 million fish were killed. Scientists confirmed that this single-celled algae uses its flagella, a tail-like appendage, to move up and down the water column. It discolors the saltwater, sometimes dark and red, but most often Florida red tide is actually a yellow-green color. When this organism produces higher than normal concentrations, a bloom is created, a harmful algae bloom, which can last for days or linger on for months. Harmful algae blooms happen worldwide. As a microscopic algae, the Florida red tide, also known as Karenia brevis, releases a toxin, a powerful poison that changes the environmental balance. The potent neurotoxin kills fish, turtles, dolphins, manatees, and birds. In 1996, an unprecedented epidemic of 149 manatee deaths was associated with a particularly lengthy red tide. Mass mortalities of the endangered manatees in 2002 and bottlenose dolphins in 2004 were also attributed to the toxin's accumulation and transfer in the food web, even after the blooms disappeared. But humans are certainly not immune to these red tide events either. Winds and currents play a role in breaking apart and dispersing the red tide cells into the sea spray. Humans can also become ill with neurotoxic shellfish poisoning from eating contaminated clams and oysters. Many theories exist regarding red tide and what prompts or exacerbates such a caustic condition. Airborne iron-rich dust from the Sahara, global warming, inadequately treated waste and nitrogen loading from runoff containing fertilizers. But there remains no one single determinative cause. Today, the scientific community, government officials, and concerned citizens continue to examine what causes such a devastating disturbance and what can be done to meet this vexing challenge. Everything we enjoy and value about the Gulf lifestyle is jeopardized by red tide. The vast recreational activities, economic prosperity, and iconic ecotourism are threatened by this taunting nemesis. Stopping red tide may be difficult, as blooms can occur in patches. Mitigating or reducing the impacts with viable programs has become the focus. Animals and marine life suffering from paralyzing illness and facing a brutal demise benefit from treatment, with researchers valiantly rehabilitating and saving many. Human exposure through inhalation of the airborne toxins, brevetoxins, has prompted researchers to conclude that antihistamine pre-treatment and a compound called Brevanol may block the effect. Extensive early warning systems based on air and water sampling assist with detection and monitoring. Automated sensors on platforms, buoys, and mobile self-propelled devices like University of South Florida's AMG and Mote's BrevBuster travel the Gulf, sending back invaluable data via satellite technology. Collaborative red tide efforts of top scientists all working together have given the Gulf's response a cutting-edge global reputation. Engineers from the Center for Ocean Technology have had a role in developing and implementing new underwater technologies that assist scientists in their discoveries. From shipside to the ocean floor, researchers are collecting acoustical information. Research vessels traverse the Gulf, accompanied by buoys, which hold promise for better prediction of red tides. Local governments, like Sarasota County, have passed ordinances to reduce nutrients and runoff. START has become a leader in education and outreach grassroots efforts to mitigate harmful algae bloom impacts. Tourism bureaus and businesses provide information to visitors, recognizing that public education is the key. Armed with blackberries and a 941 Beaches hotline, lifeguards and park rangers work with Mote Marine to report current conditions, including red tide impacts on a 24/7 basis. Florida is known for its fabulous seafood and outdoor dining, as much as it's recognized for its mesmerizing sunsets. And with its diligent monitoring and inspection of the water's harvests, the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services assures us all a safe and memorable feast from these gifts of the sea. Like a refrain in a song, the Florida red tide has been recurrent throughout history for hundreds of years. But after each red tide refrain, the symphony of life continues and rebounds with nature's orchestrated resilience and productivity in the ecosystem. Some may reflect that the Gulf and the ocean in general is just too big, much like outer space or the span of the bridges over Florida, to make a difference. The Florida Red Tide is an opportunity for you to be involved. We as individuals can and must take personal responsibility for the health of our environment and vital resources. The environment affects you, and you affect the environment. We are interconnected. All life, including our own, is dependent on the ocean. Surrounded by three sides of the sea, we live it, explore it, and visit it, while desiring that future generations will have the same environmental privileges. The Gulf generously provides us with our food, health, recreation, jobs, and spiritual enrichment. We marvel at the mysteries that dwell beneath. They inspire art, science, activism, and innovation. But pollution, marine debris, propeller scars, excess nutrients, runoff, and inadequate waste treatment strip the life from the legacy we are to leave. And still, the Gulf continues to give back. What will you give in return? The vast array of swirling schools of fish, pulsating jellies, mystical underwater habitats, and the curious manatees refresh and restore our spirits. and more species are becoming threatened, endangered, or extinct. So what can and will you do to make a difference? Go deep into your search for discovery and become an ocean steward. Understand the environmental impacts that threaten our marine species, some of whose ancestors, like those of the horseshoe crab, date back over 350 million years. Learn all you can about red tide. Visit websites and seek accurate information often. Join organizations like START. Become involved in one of their chapters and volunteer. Participate in educating the public. Tell those around you about red tide and help promote awareness. Harmful algae blooms are a global issue. Take health precautions when learning of impacted beaches or during a red tide bloom. Choose alternative indoor activities and consult the 941 Beaches hotline for current conditions. Eat commercially harvested seafood. Recognize that our fisheries need our support as well. Red tide can kill the bait fish, and when the bait fish go, so go fish like the grouper. Fighting red tide protects the seagrasses and the life within them. The seagrasses are the nurseries for juvenile fish and a refuge for the seahorses and scallops. They are the principal food source for manatees and turtles. Reduce the environmental wake behind you. Use lower, slow-release fertilizers to help clean up our waterways, ensuring that we're not prolonging or spreading harmful algae blooms. Nitrogen loads from increased population growth, industrial development, and urbanization have continued to stress our marine resources, and they need our steadfast commitment in reducing these stressors. Be an ambassador for marine wildlife and do your part in recycling, reducing pollution, and diminishing debris in our oceans. Tell your government representatives and community leaders to support red tide research and education. Consider a career in marine science or ocean engineering. Pursue a passion of conservation. You are now part of the solution. Make a difference. Leave a legacy of true blue waters.